Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Syed Rizvi and welcome to Q&A with Qamber, or questions and answers with Qamber. So this is a brand new show in which we take your questions and discuss them with alims to get the best possible answer. So our today's topic is Usuluddin, and today we are joined by Moulana Syed Amin Jafri. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you today?
Not bad, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good.
Great.
So would you tell a little about yourself to the viewers at home?
Sure. I'm originally from Pakistan and migrated to US to study. Then after spending few years in US, about 9 years, moved to Canada, spent about 7+ years here. Finished my studies in MIS, just to mention, and then worked there, and then worked in Canada for a few years, and then decided to go to Qom to study the beautiful religion of Islam. And now we are back again in Canada, and inshallah we'll do some tabligh here.
MashaAllah. So as I said earlier, our today's topic is Usuluddin. But first, we should talk about Imam Hussein as a whole, such a divine being that was sacrificed in the month of Muharram. So a little insight about Imam Hussein by Moulana Syed Amin Jafri.
Bismillah. Imam Hussein والسلام, as we know, is the son of Imam Ali والسلام, and Hazrat Fatima salamullah alayha. When Imam Hussein was born, Rasul Akram came and asked Janab Fatima to give Imam Hussein to him. And then he started crying after. And normally when you have a baby and grandparents hold the babies, they normally are really happy. Rasulullah was also happy, but after that happiness, he started crying. And his daughter, Janab Fatima, asked, Baba Jan, why are you crying? And then Rasul Akram said, I'm crying because your son, our son, would be killed on the land of Karbala, and he would be thirsty with his family, and he would be killed by tyrants of that time. Then Janab Sayyada, Janab Fatima Zahra also started crying. So then Janab Sayyada Fatima Zahra asked, would he be killed alone? Would he be all alone himself? Would there be nobody to help him? Would you be not there? Would Imam Ali not be in Karbala to support my son? And then Rasul said, yes, no, I wouldn't be here, neither Ali would be there. So Imam Hussein والسلام, from the day one was very important figure, and not even then, before even that, prophets went through the land of Karbala, and they were also told about the importance and the greatness of Karbala. And all of them cried for Karbala. All of them cried for the event in Karbala on Imam Hussein and his companions. So Imam Hussein, one of the hadiths from Rasul Akram, when even Imam Hussein was a child, Imam Hussein was given the beacon of guidance. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rasul Akram said, Innal Hussein misbahul huda wa safinatun nijat. Meaning, this Hussein, even Imam Hussein was a child then, this Hussein is the beacon of guidance, charagh hidayat, and misbahul huda, safinatun nijat, and the boat, the ship where people would save their lives into this ship, similar to like ship of Noah alayhi salatu wasalam, kashti Nuh ki tarah. Imam Hussein's status in the history is very, very high. And now we have to think, why did Imam Hussein go to Karbala? What was such an important thing that he had to sacrifice not only his life, but his kids, his companions, his family members? Now we understand the immense status and importance of Imam Hussein in the history of Islam, in the history of humanity, standing up against the might of Yazid. Now we need to understand so many other things. Why we have Karbala? Why do we commemorate and we quit everything in our life? We put everything on low priority, and Muharram becomes the high priority item. So we have to understand the importance of Imam Hussain and his role to save Islam.
Imam Hussain alayhi salam, such a divine being, which was just emphasized by Moulana, our Moulana. We have to understand why did he sacrifice himself for Islam. And to understand that, we first have to go to the basics. Because if you do not know the basics of Islam, then we cannot truly and fully understand why Imam Hussain alayhi salam sacrificed himself for Islam. Which is why the reason that our topic today is Usul-e-Din. So, let's start with Tawheed. Why is there not more than one God?
Sure. Before we get into the main topic, I like to build a very simple foundation, inshallah, so we can understand our future points clearly. Number one is our existence, me, you, or any human being. We are made of certain things. We are made of body and soul, two main elements, just like the mobile phones you use, the laptops you use. It has software and it has hardware into it. And software and hardware, they work together. If you leave one behind, the second one won't work.
Yes.
Your laptop is plastic and metal. It doesn't have software, it's useless. Similarly, these light bulbs, if you switch the light bulb off and there's no power, there's no electricity, this is just glass and metal, nothing else. Our human body is flesh and bones and organs and other things. So once we have soul inside, this system works. And if the soul is gone, then system is useless, is paralyzed, and it goes into the grave and becomes part of the recycling. This issue is very important. Our future questions would be depending on this one of the issue, that we are made of soul and body, number one. Number two is, we are in this world, we think sometimes, most of the times actually, that we are going to be living here forever. And once, as a sensible person with very basic IQ, if you see my father, his father, and grandparents, they had lived in this world and gone. So basically, we are in this world temporarily. We are going to be living here for a certain amount of years. Actually, according to Quran, it's not the calendar that we use nowadays. It's a recent invention. It's the number of breath we take. सांसें भी लेते हैं जो हम, वो है असल issue. That's the main calculation. So we live here, suppose 100 years or maybe one day, and then we're going to go somewhere else. So finally, we started somewhere, we are here somewhere in this world for a little while, and then we eventually be ending this life and going somewhere else, and that would be our destination. So human body is made of two things. We are here in this world temporarily, and eventually we'll be heading somewhere else. Now you can repeat your question.
Yes. So, my question is, why is there not more than one God?
Having multiple people with the same power creates imbalance, creates disputes. Similarly, just you see on this planet, we have different countries run by different emperors, prime minister, presidents, and whatnot. And they have disputes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to have ultimate power, must dictate everybody. And that being said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be the most wisest. So if the wisdom is splitted into different gods, then there would be disputes. And Quran also talks about it. And Quran says, you would not be able to run this world if there were multiple gods. So there would be disputes, disagreements, and wars and battles.
But what if they were all peaceful? They did not have any disagreements. Would there still be more efficient than one God?
One of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, the sifat ilahi, one of them is He's not compound. So if we have multiple gods, that means one God is limited to this domain, this boundary, these borders, and the other God would have this one, and it's not going to function. If we have, it's called in Arabic murakkab, meaning compound. It's made of multiple things, and it's not going to function as one ahad, one tawheed based Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they have multiple opinions on different issues. Suppose there are going to be rain tomorrow, suppose there are going to be earthquake tomorrow, there would be such amount of births and deaths, and one God does not agree eventually, then we have to have ultimate control and power to one person. Just like you, brothers and sisters, kids, you go to school and then you have teacher who runs the classroom, but eventually if there's a problem, teacher goes to his or her senior teacher, and then eventually they go to the principal, and then principal decides eventually. So they do suggest, but in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's case, there's no suggestion or advices to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dictates and advises His prophets. So having multiple gods would create problems.
Thank you for your insight, Moulana. And now we will take a short break and we'll see you after that. Welcome back from the break. We were having a discussion with Moulana Syed Amin Jafri on the topic Usul-e-Din. Sorry, Moulana, but I forgot to ask you a question. I just directly skipped to Tawheed. I wanted to ask you, what are Usul-e-Din? Basically, why are they created? What's their importance? We do namaz, we do roza, but why is it Usul-e-Din just need to be there?
Ahsan, very good question. Basically, whenever you create any system, you have to have some basic rules to follow so you can stick with your objective. If you're going somewhere and you have a destination in mind, you have to have a map plan, which roads you're going to take. You create a company, you have to have a product and objective to sell it.
Yes.
Just like that, if you're creating a system, suppose we live in Canada, and somebody lives in China, somebody lives in Russia, somebody lives in Pakistan, somebody lives in Saudi Arabia, somebody lives in Iran. Every country has different system to run their countries and their national issues.
Different rules.
Rules, mashallah. So those rules should be based on something. Islam itself is a system. It's a very deep and simpler system though. For any system we need, just like this house, this place, or any building, you got to have foundation, you got to have pillars, sutun, and then you build the house. Similarly, any system, even physical or non-physical, you must have some rules to follow. Doctrine, or in Urdu we call it ain, manshur, rules, regulations, but you gotta have a main theme behind it, main doctrine. So Islam or any other religion has to have that as well. And this is where usul actually is the plural word. Usul means origins, basics, basis. So asal is basically singular, usul is plural. So we have 5 origin, doctrines, pillars, sutun, usul, whatever you want to name or whatever makes you comfortable.
Just like a building can't be built without a base.
Of course, you have to dig, you have to create pillars, then you create walls and whatnot, you all know that. So then you create the building, and then if you have a building that is very high, the higher the building, the deeper you have to dig to create the solid foundation. So according to Islam, we have to have 5 usul-e-din. We must believe in those usuls. We must believe in the doctrine. And based on that, the entire system that you on daily basis you follow actually is Islam. When you say I fast in Mahr Ramadan, when you say I pray 5 times a day, I do azadari in Muharram or other days, I do this, I do Hajj, I pay zakat, I pay khums. Why? On top of all this, you have usul-e-deen. Based on that, just like in other countries, you pay taxes. Why do we pay taxes? Because country needs to run according to financial needs. And then those finances would build roads, hospitals, policing, and all that. So similarly, Islam also has main rules that would go underneath the furu'at of the deen.
Okay. Now, going back to Tawheed, where last time I asked you, why is there not more than one God? And you gave me a wonderful and spectacular answer. But now I must ask you, if we cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do we know that He exists?
Ahsan, very good question. And question is actually the key to the knowledge. Question could be very small, but answer could be very big. When you say this is a huge place, how do we get in? We need a key. Key is very small, but the house is big. So to enter into this huge house, or even a big city used to be keys to the cities. Key could be small. So question is very important thing. And this is a very basic, small, but very important question. How couldn't we see? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Nazir. And one of his name is Nazir. How couldn't we see him? So before even we get into this, there are 5 pillars in Islam. Okay? Tawheed, Nabuwwat, Adl, Qayamat, and Imamat. And we must know these 5 pillars. When we talk about taqleed of a marji taqleed, a mujtahid, in taqleed, we only follow mujtahid for furu-e-deen, ahkam, rules, laws. But in usul, there's no taqleed. We must have the understanding of our own level of usul-e-deen. So this is something on the side to make sure that we understand 5 usul.
Yes.
1, we must understand usul-e-deen on our own, not marji taqleed. We can use marji taqleed's research and tahqiq.
But we should understand it on our own.
On our own IQ level, on own understanding, age, experience, education. So we must know Tawheed, we must know Nabuwwat, we must know Adl, we must know Qayamat, we must know Imamat. To an extent, at your age, my elders' age. So this is, that should be also clearly understood. 5 pillars, we must know them. Marji taqleed won't do anything, can get help. But once we leave this world, as I said, we have to leave, everybody has to leave. We'll be asked these questions from Munkir Nakir in the Qabr and then eventually at the day of judgment.
Yes.
So, getting back to the question, how can we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
And how do we know that He exists?
Ahsan, very good, very good. When we talk about seeing, our concept of seeing things related to vision. Vision means eyes. When your eyes cannot see something, it does not mean that thing, that objective does not exist. As we understand air, okay, air can be measured. But once we see the lot of things, we cannot see see the viruses. You wake up in the morning, you're healthy, you're fine. You go to the school, you go to the classroom, you come back, you have flu. How did you get the flu? You didn't see the virus. The virus transferred into your body from one of your classmates or schoolmate. So seeing does not mean, or not seeing does not mean things do not exist. 1. As I mentioned in the earlier part of our discussion, our physical being is dependent on 5 senses. And one of them is vision. So if we do not see, we cannot see certain things, it doesn't mean. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be seen, understood, felt through our soul. That's the only option we have in this scenario. You cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from this vision, from these eyes. Me and you are normal people. When we see Masoom, Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wassalam, when he requested to be, to witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with these, he could not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, impossible. So we cannot, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, and this is one of the beliefs that you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some God, some Allah, that is not seen by these eyes.
Just like air, for example. We can't see air, but we can feel it. But even though we can't see air, we know that it exists. And in the same case, it's also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Ahsan. And similarly, when we say Allah, if we see something, that means that object is limited to that area. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited. So if you see something here, that means it doesn't exist there. It doesn't exist there, on the other parts of the world. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not murakkab, is not compound, is not made of multiple things. Is unique ahad. So this is one of the reasons you cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from these eyes.
Now, moving on to the next question. I have to ask, we do ibadat, we do worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there are also angels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made angels to worship Him. There are a lot of angels, they all have different jobs. But some of the angels have a job to worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create us when He could have created angels to worship Him?
Ahsan, good question. Basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Beniyaz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not. Allahu Samad, Lam Yalid Walam Yulad, Walam Yakul Lahu Kufuwan Ahad. Allahu Samad, meaning Allah does not need us to worship Him. Allah does not even need angels to worship Him. Allah has nothing to do with our worship. It's He who gave us favor by creating us. We never existed. He gave us favor by creating us. This creation we never deserved. We never deserved. He gave us favor and saying, pray me, do my ibadat, become my abd. And it's for our well-being. It has nothing to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We pray or we do not pray, Allah is still there. Creator is still there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still there. Lot of people on this planet, most of the people actually do not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we worship. So that's not for Him. That's for us, number one. Number two is, He created us as the unique, most perfect khalqat, most perfect creation. Ashraful makhlooq, meaning we are the best of the best. We are the ultimate. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has even said that I am proud of my product. This thing I have created as human being, we call, I am proud of it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one, gave us the favor. He does not need any ibadat. Quran also says all your ibadat would be thrown onto your face once you come back. There's no need I do not need your ibadat. This to excel you in this life and afterlife. So basically, we are created for ibadat, and it's a favor He gave us. And there were angels. Of course, there would be angels. He could create many angels. He created us, and it's for our well-being, basically.
Thank you, Moulana, for your answers and your insight on those questions. Unfortunately, brothers and sisters, that's all the time we had for today. If you have any questions or queries you would like me to discuss with our Moulana, you can send them or email them or contact us on WhatsApp or call us. All the email address and the number will be displayed on the screen right now, and you can contact us on this. And we will continue the discussion next time.